daily breakdown of every NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, race fans, to another episode of Mash the Gas Podcast. My name is Kevin Batstone. Joining me shortly, Mr. Jeff Davis, and of course, Miss NASCAR Sky. We're here to break down the Great American Getaway 400 presented by VisitPA.com. Pocono Raceway, Long Pond. A lot to break down here. We had the rain, we had the sun, we had on-track action, fuel saving. Sky, who mashed it the hardest this weekend?
Got to give it to the 19 team and Chase Briscoe. I mean, it's good to see them finally get a win. They've shown speed a few times this season, getting pole a couple times, but haven't been able to put a race together. So I'm really glad for them. And I mean, he held off the 11, which is pretty hard to do. So good for him. So yeah, he definitely mashed the gas the hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. Leading 72 laps, which is awesome. I mean, Denny Hamlin has dominated this track for so many years. Obviously coming in P2 and, leading 32 laps. I had Hamlin. I thought he was going to win it. But I'm super stoked for Chase Briscoe. He got his first career win for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's done a really good job showing speed the last 4 weeks, and it's about time he finally got that win.
Definitely impressive fashion, too. I mean, we've talked about the speed out of this 19 car. I mean, sitting on the pole 4 out of the last 6 weeks and, just showing up to the racetrack fast, being in contention, to finally put the whole race together. And, of course, it had to be a hold-your-breath nail-biter coming down to the end there. I mean, the way he was able to save fuel, yet still outpace Denny Hamlin by a tenth and a half a lap was very interesting. And Denny was kind of talking about it on Detrimental today about how basically he was in a position where he couldn't let Ryan Blaney get around him. Because then if the 19 were to run out and then he ends up running second, Blaney gets the win. So his whole plan of attack there with 10 to go was just keep the 12 behind you and hope the 19 runs out, because Denny just didn't have enough to make a run on Chase there. But the fact that he was able to save and find, in 6-7 laps extra worth of fuel is actually pretty incredible, and enough still to do the burnout.
I'm surprised it held off as long as he did, but I know there was a little bit of a relief there towards the end when they were like, okay, the pace you're doing, you saved us enough, like we should be just right there. So I'm glad for him. Like I said, he's been working hard. I've seen an interesting stat between him and Ty Gibbs. Out of the 88 starts that Ty Gibbs has at JGR, he does not have a win, but Chase Briscoe in just 17 does, plus 4 poles. So that's pretty interesting. And Denny's been on fire recently. Out of the last 10 starts, he's finished in the top 3 6 times. So, I mean, Denny's definitely on fire this year. So, we always talk about if he's going to stay in the 11 or if he's ever going to win a championship. I still don't know about the championship part, but he's definitely making a really good, strong run for this season.
Yeah, we know definitely Denny deserves it. He's a veteran, man. And it's like he does a kick-ass job. And like I said, I thought he was going to win this race. But, like Kevin was mentioning a minute ago, it's tough because when you're in second place, third place, and you're jockeying for it, you're going to drag each other down. And they already knew the 19 had it. So, like Sky was mentioned with Ty Gibbs with 88 starts with 0 wins. Chase Briscoe, he's only had 17 starts, and he got his first win. Thought it was really cool to see him finally get that done. Really good guy, and it was a great race. I mean, Brad Keselowski, he actually got up there. I was surprised, leading 27 laps. But I definitely thought Denny Hamlin was going to win the race, but I'm super stoked that Chase Briscoe did in the 19.
It's a big win for those guys. Locked into the playoffs, they can go race with more confidence now. And, you mentioned Brad Keselowski, really great opportunity that those guys, they were come down pit road when pit road's closed, have to go to the tail end of the longest line, have to come back through the field. Those guys had a lot of speed. But when you look at that move, to come down pit road when it's completely closed, I mean, Denny was talking about it. He goes, I thought Brad was just trying to fake the field out and he was going to dart back to the right. He goes, we could all see that the red lights were flashing bright. Was it a mistake by Jeremy Bowens? Did Brad K just not see it? Because Brad's going, man, why is everybody pitting on the next lap? He was so confused, he didn't even realize he was penalized. So that's definitely got to be the biggest mistake of the race.
Yeah, and he's still got a top 10 finish out of it. He finished P9.
It's good to definitely come back from something like that because I was a little worried there. I mean, that's pretty much how races are always lost, and Brad's already had a tough enough season, so to make a mistake like that, It definitely probably falls on a few different people. It probably just isn't one. There's definitely a lot of, like you said, with the red lights and everything. Brad could have seen the crew chief should have been on top of it. It's unfortunate to see, but I'm really happy that he rebound because I like RFK. I like Brad. I think Brad, um, when I went live on Instagram, I think earlier before the race, everyone was saying that they had a good feeling about Brad winning. So I was definitely rooting for him, and I don't know, Priest also finished in the top. He finished P8, which that's just really good for that entire camp. I didn't catch, oh, the 17 finished P4. So, I mean, that was a really good day for RFK.
Good finish, you know what I mean? It really was, and it's really cool to see those guys up there. I mean, RFK, I love watching Brad get up there, and it's about time the team's kind of coming around a little bit. I think he'll get a win. I think it's going to be a great season for him, but what? We've only got like, I don't know, 10, 12 races to go. So, they kind of need to get together a little bit. But thinking about Denny Hamlin, which I thought something was kind of cool this week, even though he had the last week off because had another baby, third child with Jordan Fish. So he got a week off. He got the waiver, so no problem on there. But he did just get a multi-year sponsorship with Bob's Discount Furniture, so that's going to bring over $350 million in sponsorship just to Denny Hamlin and keeping his sponsors and getting that money. I know we talk about the money a lot of the times with these teams. It's tough. It's really tough to keep the money. So for him to get that sponsorship, I thought it was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, they're going to be on a couple races this year and then more next year as well. So, Denny, after losing a major sponsorship like FedEx, those guys have really rebounded well with Progressive, Sport Clip still on board. And of course, this Saturday night, he's going to be running the King's Hawaiian rolls, which we've seen on some of the RFK machines in the past. They're coming over to Denny. So those guys are definitely attracting sponsors, which is great for them. That's good for JGR, and it's going to keep the doors open for a while. And Denny did walk away with the fastest lap of this race, so he's got speed. He's been in contention to win a lot of races. I think back to Kansas when he had that clutch issue. I mean, Denny could easily have 5 wins right now. Things could have gone a little bit differently, but I think those guys are feeling pretty good, feeling pretty confident. They're bringing fast race cars to the track. I mean, all of JGR with the exception, Ty Gibbs. He shows speed at times. He's in the back others. Just a lot of inconsistencies there. And then, of course, Denny's team that he owns there, 2311, terrible problems with the brakes yesterday, guys. I mean, just horrible, horrible problems with the brakes. We saw what happened with Bubba Wallace there. They decided to go ahead and play it safe, bring the 45 to the garage and swap out some brake components and try to get back on the lead lap. But, we typically, when you see brake failures like that across the entire organization, it was primarily just a 2311 thing. We really didn't see it on the JGR Toyotas or even the Legacy Motor Club. So those guys definitely have some things to button up on the mechanic side before we head down to Atlanta.
They definitely do for sure. It was unfortunate because Tyler Reddick, I mean, he's just having a very off season. I don't want to say it's a bad season or anything too bad, but it's definitely off, especially for Tyler Reddick terms. I don't know. I just feel bad for Tyler Reddick. I hope he can get it together. He performs well at Atlanta, not to jump too far ahead here, but so maybe he can get some good luck this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, it was just one of those deals, where, we saw it with Riley Herbst as well. And at that point, they were just so, shook with the 45 still out there. He started falling back and they said, let's just bring him down to the garage and play it safe because they were at risk. I mean, we saw what happened to Bubba there. I mean, the brake heat, they were measuring, the heat that were coming off those rotors were like 300 or 400 degrees hotter than some of the competition around them. So it's definitely something internal that they're going to have to get ironed out. I mean, Pocono is definitely pretty hard on the brakes going through that tunnel turn and, the bumps. And, Pocono just has a lot of unique characteristics. I mean, I know they call it an oval. We, of course, got to give a huge shout out to Connor Zilich for the 88 car in the Xfinity Series with Dale Jr.
Badass.
On the pit box, calling the shots. Now, depending on who you ask, Kyle Busch said it was kind of for publicity and that, JRM already kind of had a lot of things in the background, ready to go for that team. And Jr. was just kind of there, overseeing everything. But with the engineers back in Charlotte and everything, it was kind of run from there. But regardless, you can't take away the fact that Jr. is now a winning driver, winning crew chief, and a winning owner. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I didn't hear Kyle Busch make that comment, but that is such a hater thing. Like, leave Junior alone. That's funny to me. I think he did a great job. I mean, I
Right.
thought it was incredible to see him win. It's funny. Someone said, his stat, he has like the best stat now as a crew chief because he's only had the one race. But yeah, switching though a little bit, that was, I think, Prime's last broadcast. Yeah. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I like the way they signed off, and I think that What I believe is going to happen here is when NASCAR goes into broadcast negotiations or whatever that looks like, I think Prime is going to be in a huge position to say, "You give us more races." I mean, their performance was unbelievable. The race coverage that we saw, the rawness of it, like we've talked about, the ability to show profanity on there, it just felt more real. And Daniel Trotta, Corey LaJoy, Carl Edwards, all those guys did a fantastic job, and it was just a great team. I mean, I can't believe it's already over with, but I really expect to see more races with Prime next year.
I hope we see many more races out of Prime, man, because I thought it killed it, man. I loved it.
I agree with everything you said. I loved Prime. I thought the visuals were amazing. The commentary was, I mean, so great. You can not ever get enough of Dale Jr. in my opinion, especially when he's in the booth. But it's also just the chemistry. That's one thing that I think Fox lacks in the booth is just really good chemistry. I feel like they clash a lot over on Fox. So it's nice to have just like you said, it was like buddies hanging out, watching the race, and that's exactly how I want it to feel. So I agree. I give them an A+, and I hope that we can get them to have some more races next season.
Yeah, and I think that's unanimous across most of NASCAR Nation. I mean, the only people that are really upset are the folks that don't have Prime or didn't want to pay for it. So, but when you look at some of the coverage that even they show on YouTube, the after broadcast, they do rebroadcast in that in other areas where people that maybe don't have Prime can have a chance to watch. So, yeah, they have a huge case to say, hey, we're bringing a better product than Fox and NBC combined. And so I think that puts a lot of pressure on TNT here going forward, right? These guys are getting ready to pass off the baton to them. And now they're running with this in-season challenge, and TNT is going to simulcast on HBO Max, and, different broadcast team, different commentators. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
We can't, sell them too short on TNT yet. We'll have to see what they do. But hopefully they follow more after Prime and less after Fox. That's the only thing we can hope for. I'm trying to see. I was thinking about, William Byron. He had that unfortunate thing happen early on where he had to go to the backup car. But even though he finished, P27, which isn't all that well, he still got a lot of stage points and he still made it, the most he could out of the day, which I just love when drivers do that. It's really impressive to me. I don't know how you guys feel.
Well, I mean, making the best out of what they had. I mean, that was a pretty gnarly wreck that he had there in qualifying, going through the tunnel turn. Car just snapped around, and
Cool.
nosed it right into the wall. So, I think Hendrick overall, I mean, decent day for those guys, right? Chase Elliott coming home P5, Kyle Larson, all those guys started pretty deep in the pack. Not great qualifying efforts. Alex Bowman bringing it home P11. I think those guys are continuing to get a little bit better, but. For William Byron, he's still in a great points position. He still has wins under his belt. Those guys are bad fast.
But the only one that really surprised me out of this weekend was literally John Hunter Nemechek finishing P6. That kind of caught me off guard. I didn't see that coming. I mean, there's a lot of good drivers out there. I know he's a good driver, but to see him get the finish that he did was something that I didn't expect.
Yeah, he's been on fire recently. I think I talked about it last week, but he's been finishing in the top 10 pretty consistently or getting at least a few good runs for that organization. So that's really good on him. And not, I looked ahead in, a few races. I was looking to see where he performs well, and he still performs pretty well at some of these upcoming tracks. So that could be someone, that gets the first win of the season. I was thinking about that actually because there's already 11 winners this year, out of 16. So do you guys think we're gonna hit 16 winners? I'm kind of feeling like we might hit 16 winners.
Yeah, it's always a good conversation to have this time of year because we're kind of coming down to it, and there's still guys that haven't found victory lane that we think will. Chase Elliott, I mean, he's definitely due. I think Brad Keselowski's in a must-win position. I think we'll see him go. Does Alex Bowman, go back to Chicago and get a win there? So I mean, these spots can definitely fill up quick. You mentioned some of those guys over at Legacy Motor Club. Just getting better. I mean, the 43 and the 42. If you look at it from the start of the year till now, their average finishing position is getting better and better week over week. So whatever they're doing there is working. They have found some sort of speed. I would say the same about Trackhouse. I think those guys are bringing a lot more speed to the racetrack than we saw earlier in the year. So, it's time for these guys to start peaking, and, they're running out of opportunities to find victory lane. I mean, we're heading to a super speedway followed by a lot of road courses. We got Daytona coming up at the end of the summer. So, a lot of wild cards here, where that could either really benefit some of these drivers or it's really going to hurt them. It's going to be interesting to see how the summer plays out.
Yeah, we got quite a few races coming up. They're, like you said, different variables. It's like, between the road courses and the super speedways. Atlanta, I'm not going to call it Echo Park. I'm just too old school for that. So whatever you want to call it. Atlanta, I can't wait, but it is an interesting track now that they changed the configuration. So it's kind of difficult to when you're taking your picks on fantasy. Who do you put in? Who do you keep out?
Yeah, Penske's going to be on my radar going into this weekend for sure. I mean, I think anytime we head to super speedways, we have to keep those guys in the back of our mind. I mean, Joey Logano did win this race last September, when it was the second race of the year. And then going back earlier this year, we look at Christopher Bell as the winner. But we've seen a lot of close finishes here. It's a mile and a half that runs like a super speedway, which is makes for good racing. I feel like the strategy is a little bit different than we see on a 2.5 or 2.66 Talladega, but the idea is the same, and it's pack style racing, and just try to make your moves where you can. I think guys like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, some of these guys that show speed. Brad Keselowski, I think this is a huge opportunity for Brad Keselowski to showcase the speed of RFK and his super speedway racing abilities. I mean, when I think of super speedway, BK is one of the best to do it. So I know that he's coming into this weekend with a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, and I think he thinks he can win this race.
Another driver I was looking at when I was looking at the stats is Kyle Busch. The last three times we've been here, he's finished in the top 10. And I know I can't gas him up too much because I picked him last week and that didn't work too well for me. So, but looking back, like I said, he's finished in the top 10 three times. It's a good track for him. So that's all been in the 8 car. So I don't know. I have a good feeling about him. Maybe not a win, but definitely probably keep that top 10 streak alive.
Good opportunity for sure. I mean, RCR, I think they always highlight these super speedway style races as well. I mean, it's just one of these style of races. We know how much you like them, Sky, and how much I like them, and I say that sarcastically because I'm not a big super speedway fan. I never have been.
Nope.
You know, from a fan's perspective, it's exciting. 3 wide, I get it. I'm not going to sit here and throw mud at our product of racing. I'm sure we'll pack them in at Atlanta this weekend, and I'm glad it's under the lights. I love night racing. That's a lot of fun this time of year, and it will probably be a little bit more enjoyable considering it's hot Atlanta and we're at the end of June. So I'm sure that'll be a little bit better for the fans. But it's just so hard to pick favorites at these racetracks because so much can go wrong. You could be leading all the laps, you get wiped out in the big one, you get collected in someone else's mess. It's just so hard to say. So, fantasy wise, I know my strategy is always to kind of approach it a little bit cautiously. I mean, I have tons of uses on guys like Stenhouse, Brad Keselowski. I'm going to put my super speedway regulars in and, maybe roll the dice on an Alex Bowman. A Kyle Busch, I think, is a good pick. Austin Cindric obviously won Talladega earlier this year. So I think we've kind of highlighted on all these teams that are going to stand out, but who knows? I mean, that's the thing. It's anybody's race.
Yeah, I got a question for y'all for this weekend. Ricky Stenhouse and Carson Hocevar, they were right there together during a good portion of the race. And, before the race even happened, Ricky Stenhouse said, I'm tired of giving this kid any publicity anyway. So he's kind of tired of talking about it, but when are we going to see the payback?
It's funny that you bring that up because I actually have when I was looking back over the last few races, the 77 and the 47 are together a lot. They finish closely together a lot. And
They're right there.
Yeah, and I was worried because I thought about picking the 77 as who I want to win or who I think is going to win, but I just don't have faith with the 47 being right there and it being the type of track that it is. It's very easy to wreck somebody and, make it like, oh, I definitely didn't mean to do that. But Stenhouse saying that, it really cracked me up because I do feel like it is not Stenhouse giving Carson clout. It's the other way around. I mean, Carson's been buzzing way before he got into the 47. So Stenhouse saying that, it gave me a little chuckle. I mean, I know what he's trying to say, but it just gave me a little laugh.
Heck yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's the banter. It's some of the shit that makes things fun about this, and what they have going on. And like we talked about, these guys will think about it for months, even like a year or two down the road. It's like, you know what? I'm going to take you out.
Yeah, I do think the 77 finds victory lane at some point this year. Payback to a guy at a super speedway comes with a lot of ramifications because you're likely going to take out at least another 6 to 7 drivers, whereas if you're on a road course, if you're on, kind of a single file run, you can bump them, get them up the hill, put them in the fence. But if you, go in and hook the right rear, the left rear of the 77 at Atlanta, you're going to wipe out half the field.
Yeah.
So I just don't see this as being a good opportunity to, pay back the 77, if you will. I liked what Stenhouse said. I'm not going to give him any more publicity. We will see it come full circle at some point. It will happen. It's just, I don't know if it's a matter of if, but when. I just don't predict it happening here in Atlanta this weekend. But, I'm still trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of this in-season bracket challenge here. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it. Denny Hamlin is seeded number one, and he will go up against Ty Dillon this weekend. It's basically a head-to-head bracket. You can go to NASCAR.com's in-season challenge and win $1 million if you pick your bracket right. It's almost like a March Madness style. Sky, I don't know if you're familiar with any of it. I'm still trying to figure it all out, but the idea is pretty simple. It's just a bracket style system, a seeded thing. Who's going to finish better than the other, all the way down to a winner for not only the driver but the person who gets the bracket correct.
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into it either. I mean, it's a fun little thing. I remember Chase Elliott, we said a few weeks ago, Chase was like, I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know what was going on with it. So I kind of feel him on that. But I mean, it's an interesting thing. It'll be excited to see how it plays out. I mean, I'm looking at, you know, who's up against each other. It's some interesting little combos.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for Atlanta. It's going to be a really good track. I mean, it's a mile and a half. It's interesting that, it's turned into a super speedway. We got banking like 28% and all the turns. Straightaways are only 5%. But like you said, it's like if someone like messes up, yeah, you're taking out 13 cars, like Kevin was just saying. So it's tough especially when you're trying to do fantasy, because you want to take your guys that that you think will win, but it's easy to get caught up in the fray, and that's one of the products that we will see out of Atlanta.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a factor, and I think the other thing here in Atlanta is pit strategy. We see on super speedways sometimes we know when the stage brakes are going to fall, but the thing here is green flag pit stops are very, very unique because we enter pit road coming down the back straightaway as you enter turn three, and you have to come all the way around, that bottom apron there, because there's just not, you're carrying too much speed off turn four to get it woed up in time. So I understand why they do it that way under green, but that's just one more thing that these drivers are going to have to battle, if and when we start to see green flag pit stops play out. I do think we'll see that. I mean, it's pretty normal to see that at Daytona and Talladega and these style of racing, where we'll see the Chevys pit with the Chevys, Toyotas, and Fords if we stay on long green flag runs. So I think stage 1 and 2, they'll be able to split those stages and kind of figure out where they need to pit. But that final stage, if we get a long green flag run, Sky, it's really going to come down to how these guys pit.
Yes, how they pit and how well they perform on pit road. No speeding, make sure everything, no little anything like how we had Brad last time. That's just the issue this entire season. I mentioned it so many times. I feel like pit road has just been a mess for every single team. I mean, Blaney was speeding last week. I can't remember a time that Denny and Kyle Busch, like I feel like every single race they're at least speeding one time. It's stuff like that. You got to keep that clean. And that's definitely going to be, like you said, pit road's going to be your best friend as long as, your crew chief, your pit crew, everybody, the driver, we're all on the same page, and you just got to execute exactly how, you practice every week.
Yeah, as we know, spots are won on pit road. It's like you can gain a couple spots, you can lose a couple spots. It's harder to do that on the track when you're actually racing. So, the crew chiefs and the pit crews, they're the ones that really do make a difference, because that's where you win or lose spots. Kevin, I was going to talk to you a little bit about more, when we met David Starr in Texas here a couple months ago, he's actually going to race the Atlanta race next weekend.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity for David Starr. We were kind of chatting with him down in Texas about what races he was going to run. And, this is a big opportunity for those guys in that 66 car, still kind of pending sponsorship. They don't have a very well-funded team. But I think for those guys, the idea is just to go out and run some laps, and kind of see where they stack up. I mean, we've talked about it all the time, guys like BJ McLeod, and we've seen a lot of these other, kind of underfunded teams be able to run and get decent finishes. So, we'll see what old David Starr can pull out. It's a big opportunity for that 66 team. Like I said, super underfunded, not a lot of sponsors, but if it's going to happen anywhere with a decent finish, survive the chaos, Atlanta might be the place. So we're getting close on time here, guys. Let's go to our picks. Who wins Atlanta this Saturday night?
I don't know. I go back and forth. I think I want to go Hocevar. I think the safe bet would be go Ryan Blaney, but I think I'm going to go with the 77. I'm going to put some luck on him. Hopefully he can get his first win here coming up at Atlanta.
Going to 77, huh? It's tough because Penske does so well at Atlanta. It's like, I don't know who to pick, whether it's Blaney or Logano. I'm not quite sure. I'm having a hard time, Kevin. What are you thinking?
Well, originally when we started this, I was thinking the 22 of Joey Logano, but as I'm starting, I want to go a little wild here, and I think It's summertime. It's hot Atlanta. It's not too far from the old state of Florida. I think the watermelon man, Ross Chastain for Trackhouse, gets it done this Saturday night.
I think Joey Logano's going to get it done.
He could very much so. I thought about picking the 22. It was toss up between the 12 and the 22, but I think I'm gonna stick with the 77. But it should be a good race for Penske, which they need some good luck. They've had some interesting luck over the past few weeks.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think again, it's just going to come down to survival. What happens late in this race? Who blows up, who wipes the field out, and who really survives. And so, we might see the 22. Maybe Austin Cindric backs it up with another super speedway win. But either way, it should be a great weekend of racing. We got obviously the Xfinity Series there on a Friday night. Shout out to Lime Rock Park out there in Connecticut for the Truck Series. That's going to be awesome. Those guys are heading out there for road course racing in Lime Rock. My dad grew up not too far from that racetrack, so that's pretty cool that they're making their way up there. That's going to be on Fox on Saturday afternoon. And then, of course, we're on TNT Saturday night. I think they're simulcasting on HBO Max as well. I still got to figure out how I'm going to be viewing all that. But we are out of time here. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to mash that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to us on, and follow us across the board on social media at Mash the Gas Podcast. Be sure to follow Sky over there at NASCAR Sky across the board. We're headed to Hot Atlanta. Let's go Saturday night racing. And until then, y'all,
Mash the gas.
I feel the engine screaming back. I feel the sweat